Welcome back for part 2 of Advanced Photoshop Selection Techniques. Let's recall that we used the Select and Mask option to modify our basic selection of Bob's head to kind of create that softer edge and pick up on those little details of his hair. I'm going to turn my attention back to the rest of Bob now, his shirt, and show you a couple other ways of going about this. And again, you need to know a lot of different techniques so that you can come across a situation that a photograph presents to you and kind of suss out exactly what your strategy should be. But man, there's more than one way to do all of this stuff. So keep learning and keep growing. I'll show you a couple of things here. All right, so Bob's shirt is mostly blue. So I'm going to show you how to select things via like the color range of an object. And to start with, I'm going to hit the L key to get the lasso tool and just make a very general selection around Bob's shirt, just to kind of exclude the rest of this stuff that might be similar in color. All right, so this is a great thing for the lasso tool to kind of make a quick general selection that you're going to modify. It's also great, again, for editing, adding and subtracting areas of a selection. So we've got our basic selection. Let's refine that. So up here in the Select menu, you're going to find color range as one of the options, right? So when you enter the color range, a dialog box comes up, and you can select, certain sampled colors, right? If I click on, Bob's shirt with the eyedropper, I get, certain pixels showing up, and there's a fuzziness setting, like tolerance. Like if you increase the fuzziness, it'll select more pixels. If you decrease it, it'll select fewer pixels. What I normally like to do in a situation like this, where I've got mostly one color, but it's different shades. They're highlights and shadows and slightly different colors. So I need to select a range of this color. So I'm going to kind of lower the fuzziness and come over here to, I've got 3 options for my sampling tool. One is just a regular sampler. If I click any one of these colors, it'll just switch to that color. The second one is the Add to Sample eyedropper, and then there's the Subtract. The Add to is the one that's most beneficial. So I've got a low fuzziness. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start clicking different colors that make up the shirt, the highlights, the shadows, etc. Okay, I'm not too worried about making it perfect just yet because I'm going to refine it even farther. But you'll notice here in this preview that I've got, most of Bob's shirt is white and most of the background is black. That's what I'm shooting for. It's maybe not going to be perfect this time, but you may have a situation where you've got a photograph that is like, oh, it's clearly that color, and you can key on it and very quickly select it and cut something out, right? Like if you've got a green screen background behind your figure, this could make it really easy to select, right? Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and you see that it's modified my selection, refined it a bit. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to jump into the quick mask mode. Now, if you look at the bottom of the toolbox over here, there is a button to enter the quick mask mode that you can click to turn it on, but the shortcut for it is Q, right? So just remember the Q key will allow you to enter the quick mask mode, and the quick mask mode will warn you in the layers panel. If you're in quick mask mode, the current layer that you have selected will turn red like the same color that it's using to help you differentiate the selection from what's not selected. All right, so now we can use the brush tool. I'm going to hit the B key on the keyboard to get the brush. And I'm going to make sure my brush is, it's like a hard edge brush. It's usually better when you're working with masks to stick with a hard edge brush because you can always soften an edge later. But if you start with a soft brush, it's really hard to sharpen things that are blurry, right? It's real easy to blur things that are sharp. So I would suggest you work with a hard edge brush. So I'm going to make sure of my colors here at the bottom of the toolbox. You've got your foreground color and background color. And whatever your foreground color is what you're painting with when you've got a brush. So if I've got black as my foreground color, and I'm going to hit I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but as I hit the right bracket key, my brush enlarges. When I hit the left bracket key, it gets smaller. That's really handy. And those bracket keys are right next to the P key on the keyboard. Right bracket enlarges the brush, left bracket reduces the brush. Okay, and I'm using black. Now, black is going to actually show up as the red stuff that we're masking with. So if you paint with black outside of Bob's shirt, let me zoom in a little bit here so I can see what I'm doing a little better. If I paint with black paint, remember, it doesn't look black here, but I'm using black paint because in masks, black conceals and white reveals. So I'm going along the outside of Bob's shirt with black, and then when I want to switch to white to paint on the inside of the shirt, I hit the X key on the keyboard. That will switch your foreground and background colors. Now I've got white as my foreground color, so I can clean up the interior. Oops, not too far there. Again, hit X to switch back and forth between. And use the space bar to move yourself around. So I'm just going to go through here, and when I'm on the outside, I'm using black paint to modify that. When I'm on the inside, I switch by hitting the X key to white paint for the interior of the shape. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and clean things up a bit. Oops, I got confused, sorry. There we go. White paint for the inside. And I'm going to include his arm. Right. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit still imperfect because I want to show you another technique. So again, I'm in the quick mask mode right now. That gives us that red kind of preview of what the selection is going to look like. To exit the quick mask mode, just like entering it, you hit the Q key on the keyboard. All right, so back to my marching ants. Okay, so remember, selections can be saved. If I go to the select menu and I choose Save Selection, right, it saves it in a new channel, right? I'm just gonna leave the name alone, and it'll be called Alpha 1. So I'm gonna click OK. And remember, your Channels panel is right next door to your Layers panel. If you click on Channels, and I've saved a couple of alpha channels for Bob. So this one is Alpha 2 because I already had an Alpha 1. All right, so there it is. And I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. This is an even more graphical view of what my selection looks like. Remember, alpha channels, it's just a fancy place where you can save, selections, work on them, modify them, reload them. Okay, so I'm going to continue to modify this now. It's much more stark now, black and white. I'm going to switch, again, I can switch to black paint to clean this edge up. switch to white paint. Again, X is the key to switch foreground and background colors. And I'll just kind of zoom in here, kind of take a look at the edges of things. Again, if I need to reduce the size of my brush, hit the bracket key a couple of times so I can fit into tighter spaces if I need to. Use the space bar to move yourself around when you've zoomed in like that. I'm just kind of examining the edge and cleaning up where I can. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command-0 to zoom back out to full view. And remember, once you're done working on something in an alpha channel like this, before you go back to your layers, you need to click on the RGB composite channel at the top so that the red, green, and blue channels are all visible and the alpha channels are now hidden, right? If you have your alpha channels on, you get that red color, which distracting. Likewise, if you're still in the alpha channel and you go back to layers, it's you're not actually doing any changes to your color channels. You're just doing it to that alpha channel. So it's important to make sure that you're back on your RGB composite and you can see everything in color, and you've hidden the alpha channels before you go back to layers to do the rest of your work. Oh, you know what? I forgot something. Let's go back to channels. Alpha 2. I haven't loaded it as a selection again. So down here at the bottom of your channels panel, you'll see that little doodad right there that will load your channel as a selection. Oops, there we go. So now I see my marching ants again. Now I can go back to my composite channel. I've got Bob's shirt in its final stages. All right, so now with the background layer active, I'm going to hit Command-J to copy that selection to its own layer. All right, so now I'm hiding the background layer, like poke the eye to hide the background layer. And this is lots of fun, and if Bob knew I was doing this, he'd kill me, but this is just too good to pass up. You know, when you're working in Photoshop, you have to entertain yourself, right? So find that opportunity to enjoy the experience in Photoshop. All right, so I'm going to click on the top layer that has Bob's head on it and hit Command-E. Command-E merges the current layer down with the layer beneath it. So I just merged Bob's head with his body. I'm sure he's happy about that. Okay, so I'm going to get the Move tool. I'm going to click on Bob. I'm going to drag him to Josias Lucas and drop him. All right, here's Bob. And Bob is on holiday in Greece. Here he goes. Right. By the way, I'm hitting Command-T and right-clicking inside it. Command-T, remember, is free transform. You can rotate by bringing your cursor outside. You can enlarge things or reduce them. But you can also do this. You can right-click inside of a free transform box, and you can choose to flip. Like I can flip it vertically or horizontally. I'm going to click horizontal. Now I've turned him the other way, right? And when you're done free transforming, you can hit the return key on the keyboard, or double-click inside the box, or come up here to click on, that commit edits check mark up here. But I normally just double-click inside to set a transformation. And so now Bob can continue on his way. He's going down the stairs, up the elevator. Okay, so now if you look here, what's wrong with this picture now? It's the direction of the light, right? The background has the sun coming from one direction, and on Bob it's going the other direction now. So we need to transform him again. Command-T to transform. If you right-click inside, now you can flip him back horizontally, Double click when you're done transforming. Voila. Okay. So, a little more advanced selection techniques that'll help you composite things more accurately in your work, right? So this may be the sort of thing, it's a little advanced for this early in your education as a Photoshop pro, but start down that road of making more sophisticated selections. Pay attention to the edge of things. That is what will mark your work as professional, is if you get in close and you can see that it just looks right, like you've really crafted it well. I want to encourage you to just zoom in to make sure that you're seeing things well, and that you do a good job of cleaning things up. Again, your goal is to be a pro at this stuff, and it's going to take practice, and research, and trial and error, but you're going to get there, right? Okay. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you later.